What if I told you that 99% of people react, but only 1% truly analyze? That the difference between success and failure is the ability to think, observe, and act with precision. Ayanokoji Kiyotaka, from Classroom of the Elite, isn't just a genius, he's a master of analysis. He sees through people, calculates every move, and stays 10 steps ahead. But here's the secret. His skills aren't just fiction. You can train your mind to analyze situations just like him. Today, we're going deep into Ayanokoji's thought process, psychology, and real-world techniques to sharpen your mind. Stick around till the end because I'll also share 3 books that will transform the way you think. So, if you're ready to break free from shallow thinking and start seeing the world like Ayanokoji, let's begin. The core principles of analytical thinking. Ayanokoji's thinking isn't based on instinct or emotion. It's cold, calculated, and highly strategic. But what exactly makes his analysis so powerful? Here are 3 core principles that define his thinking. 1. Extreme observation, the power of details. Quote from Ayanokoji, "People lie, actions don't." Ayanokoji doesn't just listen, he watches. He analyzes body language, facial expressions, and subtle cues to detect deception and intentions. Real-life example, FBI interrogators use micro-expression analysis, a technique that reveals hidden emotions through involuntary facial movements lasting less than half a second. One of the most famous examples is Paul Ekman, a psychologist who discovered universal micro-expressions, tiny facial expressions that betray true feelings even when someone is lying. His research has been used by intelligence agencies like the CIA and FBI. How to improve? Train yourself to observe before speaking. In a conversation, don't just listen to words, watch eye movement, posture, and micro-expressions. Try the 60-second scan. Walk into a room and take 1 minute to observe every detail. Then close your eyes and recall as much as possible. 2. Logical detachment, thinking like a machine. Quote from Ayanokoji, "Emotions cloud judgment. Logic reveals truth." Ayanokoji never lets emotions dictate his decisions. He removes bias and analyzes facts objectively. Historical example, in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, US President John F. Kennedy had to decide whether to strike Soviet nuclear missile sites in Cuba. His military advisors urged an immediate attack, but Kennedy paused, detached himself emotionally, and instead set up a naval blockade. This led to negotiations that avoided nuclear war. A perfect example of making logic-driven decisions under pressure. How to improve? Use the third-person technique. When facing a problem, step back and ask, if I were advising a friend in this situation, what would I tell them? Read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which explores how emotions distort logical thinking. 3. Thinking 10 steps ahead, the chess master's mindset. Quote from Ayanokoji, "It's not about reacting, it's about controlling the game." Ayanokoji never makes a move without predicting the consequences. He treats every interaction like a chess game, anticipating how others will react. Historical example, Napoleon Bonaparte. In the Battle of Austerlitz, 1805, Napoleon lured the Austrian and Russian armies into thinking they had the advantage by pretending to retreat. The enemy overcommitted, exposing their flank. At that moment, Napoleon launched a surprise counterattack, crushing them completely. This was not luck. Napoleon had anticipated their reactions weeks in advance. Key lesson, most people react instantly to situations. Ayanokoji and great strategists like Napoleon delay reactions, predict responses, and control the outcome. How to improve? Before making a decision, map out possible outcomes. Ask yourself, if I do X, what will happen next? What are my opponent's options? Study chess tactics. Learning how to think multiple moves ahead trains your brain to predict future scenarios. Real-world strategies to think like Ayanokoji. Control your information, the power of misdirection. Quote from Ayanokoji, "The more you reveal, the more vulnerable you are." Ayanokoji rarely shares his true thoughts or intentions. He lets others underestimate him while silently controlling the situation. Real-life example, Steve Jobs was known for strategic secrecy. Before Apple released the first iPhone, Jobs misled competitors by downplaying Apple's mobile ambitions. This allowed Apple to dominate the smartphone market while rivals were caught off guard. Similarly, Warren Buffett never reveals his full investment strategy. He buys into companies quietly, only making his moves public after securing a strong position. How to improve. Say less than necessary. Avoid oversharing your plans and goals. Let people see results, not intentions. Master the art of strategic silence. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. 2. Psychological warfare. Understanding human weaknesses. Quote from Ayanokoji. People aren't rational, they're driven by emotions, habits, and biases. Ayanokoji exploits human psychology to control interactions. He understands that people react based on fear, pride, and insecurity rather than logic. Historical example: Sun Tzu's Art of War. Sun Tzu wrote about using an enemy's emotions against them. He believed that controlling perception was just as important as controlling the battlefield. One of his tactics: make the opponent overconfident so they underestimate you. Exactly what Ayanokoji does by acting indifferent and weak. How to improve. Study persuasion techniques. Books like Influence by Robert Cialdini teach how people make decisions irrationally. Use framing. How you present information affects how people perceive it. Instead of saying, "This is difficult," say, "This will challenge you to grow." Pattern recognition. Finding meaning in chaos. Quote from Ayanokoji. Patterns exist everywhere. The key is to notice them. Ayanokoji recognizes repeating behaviors, habits, and systems, which allows him to predict outcomes. Real-life example. In the 2008 financial crisis, investors like Michael Burry, featured in The Big Short, saw patterns in the housing market collapse years before it happened. He noticed unsustainable lending practices and fake growth, which allowed him to make millions while the rest of the world was blindsided. How to improve? Develop critical thinking by questioning everything. Why is this happening? What's the real reason behind this decision? Practice data analysis. Even small things like tracking your daily habits can help you recognize patterns and make better decisions. How to train your mind like Ayanokoji. Now that we've broken down Ayanokoji's thinking process, how can you apply these skills in real life? Step 1. Read strategically, the books that will transform your thinking. Ayanokoji didn't develop his intellect overnight. His thinking is based on constant learning and refinement. If you want to think like him, here are 3 books that will rewire your brain. The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene. Learn how to manipulate, influence, and navigate power dynamics like a true strategist. The Art of Thinking Clearly, Rolf Dobelli. Master the cognitive biases that cloud decision-making. Superthinking, Gabriel Weinberg and Lauren McCann. This book teaches mental models, frameworks that help you analyze complex problems more effectively. Step 2. Mental simulation. Train your brain to predict outcomes. Before making any decision, pause and run a mental simulation. Ask yourself, if I do X, what are the top 3 possible outcomes? Example, if you're negotiating a salary, don't just ask for more money. Consider how your boss might react. Will they counteroffer, delay the decision, push back with an excuse? Step 3. Stay emotionally detached. Master your reactions. Ayanokoji never lets anger, excitement, or fear control his actions. Challenge yourself to delay emotional reactions. If something triggers you, take a deep breath, analyze the situation, and respond logically, not emotionally. Most people live their lives reacting to the world around them. They get angry, they get distracted, they get manipulated. But Ayanokoji, he stays calm, he observes, and he controls the game. Now you have the tools to do the same. Master your emotions, analyze everything, and think 10 steps ahead. Because the world isn't controlled by the strongest or the loudest, it's controlled by the ones who understand it best.